Alright, welcome to lab 4. So in this lab we will learn how to generate SSH key pair and create a VM instance on the cloud, log into that VM instance and install a web server with a simple web page. Okay, so let's get started. So this lab assumes that you are using bash shell on both client and the server. Okay, so both Linux and Mac OS includes a bash shell. Okay, for Windows, you can see the lecture notes on how to install um, some SSH clients or terminal consoles emulators. Okay, the one that I highly recommend is Commander or CMDER. Okay, so it's a portable console emulator on Windows that you can use for this lab. Okay, so this lab assumes you have an account with a cloud provider. Okay, Microsoft Azure or AWS. Okay, the one that we use for the class is Microsoft Azure, so I assume that you are logged into that and you can create a new virtual machine instance there. Okay, for this lab I'll be using Amazon AWS Light Sail. Okay, so it's just another example of a cloud provider that we can use to create um, virtual machines remotely, okay, on the cloud. Okay, so if you're not sure how to create that, go to the lecture notes on how to create an account with Microsoft Azure and create a virtual machine there. Okay, obviously you need a text editor for some of the tasks for this lab. Okay, so let's get started. Alright, the first task in this lab is to generate SSH key pair on your client machine and access your virtual machine instance. SSH is the secure shell protocol. It's a protocol for securely connecting to a virtual private server, a remote server. An SSH works by creating a public key and a private key that match the remote server to an authorized user. Okay, so using that key pair, you can connect to your remote VM using any SSH console. Alright, so we'll see how to create that SSH keys using on Windows and on Mac. Okay, so on Windows I'm using Commander. You can go ahead and download it from commander.net. Make sure you select the download full, okay, the one that comes with Git for Windows. Okay, that one comes with the SSH tools that we will be using for this lab. Alright, so I go to Commander and I type SSH keygen, specify the algorithm RSA -b, the size is 4096, and then just give it a comments with the provider that you're using. This is optional. I'm using AWS Light Sail, so that's the comment. Hit enter. Okay, now it will ask you to specify the path where to save this file. Just select the default and then enter a passphrase that you will be using whenever you need these keys or use them. Okay, so now my keys have been saved in my .ssh folder. So now I can go ahead and upload them to my cloud provider. I'm using Amazon Light Sail in this example, and yours is probably Azure. You just log into the console and find where to upload the SSH keys. So I click upload a new version US East and then hit upload and then just upload the key. Okay, so under .ssh the key is ID RSA. Make sure you select the public key, not the private key. So open and then upload key. Alright, so now my key has been uploaded into the cloud provider's console and I can see it right here, ID RSA. So that's the name of my key. So if I want to do this the same step but on a Mac, then the steps will be exactly the same. So SSH key gen just on the terminal, minus T RSA minus B 4096, that's the size of the key, and then minus C the comments, AWS light sail, and then hit enter, select a path, so users, and then hit enter and select a passphrase, confirm, and then your keys have been created. Okay, so you basically go ahead and upload them into the cloud provider's console. Alright, so once I have my keys generated, I need to go to the dashboard of my cloud provider, and you have to find the option to upload your public key. Okay, so you go and select upload new, and then you give it the file that you just the public key. Okay, make sure it's the public key, not the private key, and then you upload it. Okay, I already uploaded that, so, and it's shown right here. Okay, so on a Mac I need to do the same thing and upload my key, the one I just generated. Okay, so make sure you upload that, select the path to your key, and then upload it. So I already did that. Okay, and then I go back to my instance. Usually your VM instances will use a default key pair, so mine is using the one that I generated on Mac, so I'm gonna access this virtual machine using the terminal on my Mac. Alright, to access the virtual machine, just from my terminal I do SSH minus I and the path to the private key. And then the username at the public IP address of your virtual machine instance. Okay, hit enter. Now it will ask me to enter the passphrase that I entered when I created the key pair. Okay, now I'm logged into the virtual machine instance. Okay, so if I do uname, and then I see that I'm logged into the Linux virtual machine, okay, the CentOS instance. Right, so that's how you log into your remote instance using SSH. Next is to install Nginx on the VM instance. So if I do sudo yum install Nginx, okay, so the package is not available, right? So you need to add the default CentOS. So Nginx is not available in the default CentOS repos, okay, repositories. So you need to add Nginx repository as a third party source repository manually into the list. Alright, so you do sudo, you can use nano is not available. Okay, so you can use nano as the text editor, so I'm gonna install nano. Okay, so sudo nano to etc yum dot repos dot d, and then nginx dot repo. Okay, so this is where we specify the actual third-party library. So nginx, and then I'm gonna do name equal nginx repo base URL equals I'm just gonna go ahead and copy and paste the base URL from the lab notes. Okay, and then we will have two entries for GPG check and enabled, right? So Control X and then yes to save, hit enter. Right, so next if I do sudo yum -y for yes for all, I don't want to get prompted to hit yes or enter y. So install it, and now it found it, it's being downloaded and successfully installed. Okay, so now Nginx has been installed. It's a service, it's a background process that can be run using sudo system control start Nginx. Okay, so now the web server has been installed and started successfully. Alright, so now if I go to the public IP address, if I visit the public IP address on the default port 80, so I'm not going to specify the port, and hit enter. So now I can see the web server is running and serving the default index page, which is the welcome to Nginx page. Alright, so now I want to create my own HTML page, so I need to change the default directory that hosts the documents, the default index page for Nginx. So all I need to go is I need to go to this file. Okay, so if I just go sudo nano and then open the default config file right here. Okay, and then I need to go to the location root. So this is the default location, right? So so I need to change that from the default. So if I comment this whole line, okay, so if you put hash, then it will comment the line. So if I do data and then dub and then semicolon, okay, so this is the new directory that I need to create. Alright, so if I go ahead and I'm used into Vim, that's why I hit X. Okay, so data dub and then Control X and then yes and then enter. Right, so now my config file is going to serve the directory data www. Alright, so if I exit, now I need to create that directory, so I do sudo make directory -p data www. Okay, and I need to create another directory in it, CPIT-490 site. Hit enter. Right, so now my directory has been created. Right, so now I need to create a simple page. Okay, simple HTML page. So if I go ahead and put the content of that page right here, right, and then save it. Alright, so now I have an index page at data www CPIT index.html page. So now I need to change the owner of the directory www and CPIT-490. Right, so I need to change the owner to the owner who runs Nginx. If I do top command to find out the actual user of Nginx, okay, just eyeball it, or I can even filter it. So So if I quit this and do just simple command ps minus ef and then grep engine X, so this will just filter the process engine X. Alright, so I can see that um, the actual user that runs the worker process is called nginx. That is the username for the user who started this process. So if I look at my data directory, www, I can see that the user and owner is the root group. Okay, so root, the user is root and the group is root, so we need to change that to nginx. All right, so all I need to do is just change the owner, okay, recursively to that directory. Right, so now the owner of that directory is nginx, and I need to change the permission for that directory to be 755. Right, so when I read and execute to the group, all the permission writes to the user nginx, and read and execute to the group and the others. Right, so change it recursively, and then for files we need to make sure it's actually um, read and write. This is not a binary file, so we don't need to execute permission, so just read and write, and then read for the group and read for the others. We want them to read, we don't want to enable write access to them. All right, so if I go right now to the um, public IP address, right, and refresh it, I still see the default index page because we did not restart the process. Even if I go to the directory that I created, CPIT-490, I will get 404. So let's restart the nginx. It's a system control, so I do system control and then restart nginx. Right, so that has been restarted. If I refresh now, I'm getting 403, forbidden. Okay, so it exists, but I don't have the right access to access it. Right, so we need to do basically follow these steps in um, um, allowing the firewall permissions and getting through SE Linux. Right, so we'll see how that can be done. Alright, so the first step is to allow these firewall rules. Okay, so we need to enable port 80, the outbound traffic. So if I do it, it says command not found. That means it's not installed, most likely. So sudo yum install firewall d. Okay, and yes for the choices. Okay, so now it's installed. So if I do sudo system control and then start firewall d, okay, so just start it. So now it should be able to allow this firewall role. Okay, so if I want to get the default zone, it says public, so I need to go and add the port 80 permanently. Okay, the add service HTTP, and the default port number for HTTP is port 80, so that's why I did not specify the port number. Right, success. So now all I need to do is just reload these firewall rules. Okay, so now it's allowed. Right, so let's just take a look and see if it works. Refresh, it still says forbidden. Right, so we need basically to check if SE Linux is running. Okay, This is another security layer on Linux, on CentOS in particular, right? So if I do sudo git force, okay, so it's enforcing, alright? So we need to basically disable SE Linux for just a moment. So let's disable it, and then let's go and access it, see if it actually works. And yes, it works. Alright, so that was the reason for this, why it was giving me 403, okay, not allowed. Alright, so um since this one fixed it, okay, now we can access it. Alright, so we basically need to enable it permanently, okay. So disable it permanently. So if I go to this command, change con, and then -rt httpd sys content -t to the root data ww. Alright, so that basically will allow it to run permanently even if I reboot or restart the VM instance. Alright, so that's it for this lab. The final step is to delete your VM instance and release all the resources. So I stopped the Nginx server. Okay, so I stopped it, and then I will basically log out and then go to the dashboard on my VM instance and stop it. So it's running, so stop it. Okay, hit stop, and wait for it to completely shut down, and then I will basically delete it. So now it's stopped, so I can go ahead and delete it. So delete instance, and then select yes, delete. Okay, and now I have no instances in my account. Right, so that is how you can create a web server for this lab and serve a custom HTML page, and then clean up the resources. Right, so that's it for lab 4.